Hey guys, today we're going to talk about the Olight 18650 class of flashlights. These are only going to be the tube lights. We're not going to talk about the bigger throwers and all that take multiple lights. These are just the single 18650 throwers. And excuse the background noise, guys. We have some invaders here in the studio, so you know how little 1.5-year-olds can be quite the tyrants, so we're never going to get a minute of peace here on this channel anymore. So let's get into look at this. So these are our three XML class, the 4-volt LEDs over here, and these are not all of them because they do make non-rechargeable versions of the S30 and the S2R. So what we have is the S30 baton rechargeable, the H2R, and the S2R. And as I mentioned, the two do have non-rechargeable versions. I don't know if they make the S non-rechargeable. Simple 4-volt LEDs are all right around 1,000 lumens, and nowadays everything uses the magnetic tail cap charging. They've switched over to that, and luckily it is backwards compatible with their system, so if you've invested in previous systems, everything does move forward. Alright, so the S30 has a regular glass lens and a smooth reflector. It gives it a little bit more throw for your money, which is kind of cool. And bear in mind too, guys, these Olights all pretty much have the same exact user interface, and they pretty much almost all operate identically. There's very little differences between them operationally. There is some differences, of course, between lumens and the different modes, but we're not going to nitpick that. You can look that up on, Amazon or whatever. H2R, of course, being your 90-degree light with a diffused optic, which gives you that really nice, unlock that, that really nice kind of diffused beam without a hot spot, which is really cool. That class of light, of course, was based off that H1R that used a single CR123, and then they bumped this one up. Very cool light, also doubles as a headlamp. Yeah. S2R has an optic. It has a TIR lens. What that accomplishes is it gives you a kind of diffused hot spot. You still have a hot spot, but it's more diffused. So that is important to note, versus we'll show you here with the S30 when I unlock this. You can see that has a very tight hot spot compared to this hot spot, which is, see when I pull it back, more diffused. Alright, so that's a major difference there with these, is what kind of beam you get out of these. Now, many people who are, as they get more and more into flashlight, become more preoccupied with the type of beam, and that's understandable. Obviously, trying to read in a tent at night with the S30 is difficult because you have that really bright hot spot, and if you put that close up to a book, it's going to wash out the words, and it can actually be difficult to read. Just one of the things I've found is, when you're looking at paper close up in the dark, these smooth reflector flashlights can tend to wash things out, make things a little difficult to read, versus that diffused light does a much better job up close in places like tents or cars or closets. A lot of you guys are in the closet still, so I joke. Alright, so let's get into the M class, which these use the higher voltage LED. I think it's XHP50, which is a high voltage LED capable of putting out thousands of lumens. And these flashlights are capable of putting out thousands. The M2R uses a magnetic tail switch, a 2-stage tail switch, which lets you light press for for turbo or a deep press for your strobe. Your M2T, on the other hand, has a 3-way switch, which you can momentary for your turbo. You can push it all the way and it will lock on turbo, or you can push it all the way and hold it and it will go to momentary strobe. Very nice tactical solution in that you can access the strobe very quickly. Now your little guys over here, strobe needs to be accessed by triple clicking. And in the heat of the moment, if an emergency actually happens, trying to triple click a light, yeah, your adrenaline's going to get the best of you and it's not going to happen. However, pushing a button hard and holding it is completely counterintuitive, and you could do that even under pressure. So if you're looking for a tactical situation, definitely these M class are a lot better. Of course, the major difference being in the tail caps between them. So, picking between them to best suit your needs is not too difficult a task. Alright, size-wise, you can see the S2A is the smallest. H2R the second, S30, and then you have your M2 and your M2R. So there is a slight difference in size. They all carry pretty similarly. Your smaller ones here have just that bent over deep carry pocket clip. This one here, the H2R, has that S pocket clip, which I love. That is my favorite. I think that's the best clip on the market, to be honest. I think the M2s also have the S clip. The S clip is great because it allows you to carry it bezel up or bezel down without changing the clip or anything like that. Very handy. Also very handy for, like, you know, backpacks and things like that, because you do have two different mounting options. So if you want to have this on your backpack strap pointing down, you can do it, you know, as you're walking, versus these, you can't do that. You're limited to bezel up. I don't like carrying bezel up in the pocket either, so that is one thing to note as well. If you are like me and really annoyed by bezel up carry, you may want to avoid that. All right, so as you can see here, there's not, you know, like many dramatic differences. Of course, they're all going to have different mode spacing. They're going to have different lumens at different modes, and that's, you know, fine. For me, that's not such a big deal because your eyes see logarithmically when it comes to brightness. So, you know, like the difference between 600 lumens and 650 lumens is not really distinguishable by the human eye that well, you know, so most of these line up so closely that it's really not an issue. They're all either, you know, 4 or 5 mode, you know, they have a moonlight, they have a turbo, strobe, it's all pretty much the same. Now some of them have some slightly different, I think Olight has incorporated this into all their lights now, which is the slow turn on and off function to kind of save your eyes, which is really cool. I really appreciate that, especially when you're in a tent, guys. If you're in a tent, you know, I read a lot when I'm camping. So having that slow turn on when you're in a tent is nice, especially when you've had a light on a high mode and the memory kicks in and it's like, you know, like it's like a laser going off right in your eyeballs. So yeah, so I appreciate that new feature. I think, well, the S30 doesn't have it. Ooh, I locked that sucker out. They also have various lockouts and things like that as well, which is kind of handy. There's a lot of features. Olight really packs a lot of features into a flashlight. Yeah, see, that doesn't have the instant. But yeah, they do. Olight really packs a lot into their lights for what they charge for them. Most of these lights, I think all of them are under $100, or at least can be had for under $100. So it really is just, you know, it's not a bad option at all when it comes to flashlights. In the end, you know, like whenever I tend to go on trips, 9 times out of 10 I end up grabbing an Olight. Now, Olight isn't always my best everyday carry because I really strongly prefer AAAs for everyday carry. But during the wintertime when I have a coat pocket, these M2T and M2Rs have been in my pocket, my coat pocket, for quite a while. Actually, I've been kind of swapping them out, you know, since I've had the M2T, but yeah. So these guys don't see as much use. These guys tend to be whatever in camping. I really like this H2R for camping. S30 is something more I like for like hunting trips because it has that longer throw and the longer distance. You know, the S2A, it's probably the one I use the least of them, to be honest. I like the TIR, you know, I tend to use it, but in the end, if I really need that diffused beam, I tend to go with something more like the H2R. Only thing I really love to see out of Olight is I would love to see a fully diffused version of like the S30 or S2R, you know, something you could have that capability. But, you know, I think the perfect light would be is to take, you know, the S30, put this optic on it, that pocket clip, add the tail cap, you know, for that momentary, you know, if you could do that and keep it at that size, that would be the perfect light as far as I'm concerned, you know. But yeah, not a ton of differences, guys, but, you know, for really what suits your needs, I think it boils down pretty easy. And, you know, if you want to just paint this into a corner, I think if you want something to carry tactical-wise, throw in your pocket, you know, have that instant strobe, your bedside defender, you know, when you need that strobe and not need to think about it in a stressful situation, your M class or what you want. I think your H2R is your hands-down winner when it comes to fishing, camping, you know, stuff like that. When you need a headlamp, you need a light, all that. Like I said, I think your S30 is good walking in the woods at night light. And your S2A, well, this is just kind of the redheaded stepchild. It's cool, but, you know, I'd never buy it. You know, again, because I like the other lights better, but nothing wrong with it. But there you go, guys. Hope you enjoyed and hope you liked this little show and tell.